It's a very good morning, and when today I meet you again after some time. I've been occupied with something else, but that is not an excuse. Tuyen Farms is your channel. Percy is my name, former full-time lecturer, corporate trainer, team building consultant, but passionate about poultry farming. How poultry farming reignited my hidden desires and passions. Background. I grew up from a very humble family background. When I say humble, I mean humble, Humble, humble background, typical African setup. And I'm coming from a farming family. We grew up farming. My father was agricultural extension officer with the government, and truly speaking, I told myself I'll never be a farmer because, the kind of farming we do in many parts of Africa, especially Zimbabwe, my country, we still use draft power in the communal areas. So farming was hard for us, and I told myself I don't think I would like to dive into farming. Like many of us, are coming from such a background. And so the other thing is that Zimbabwe is blessed with very rich fertile soils. And so majority of Zimbabweans, they come from farming backgrounds. But I told myself I would not have anything to do with farming. But fate would have it. Where am I now? Fast forward. So, from that humble background, I told myself that, look, I would do something, but to be very honest with you, I didn't have a career path because I did not have that kind of an exposure which many children had, because we had limitation when it comes to electronic media. I grew up in the villages, rural setup, and so I was not exposed. But I must say that one of my limiting factors was I did lack self-respect. When I grew up, I was having very red eyes, and also my front teeth, as you can see, were very big, and I saw myself as one of those ugly boys from a rural setup, so I lacked self-respect growing up until I finished my secondary education, to the extent that smiling was not easy for me. Until I went to college. The worst part was to talk to girls or ladies. I hardly spoke to women. And when I went to college, my marketing lecturer, he had teeth which were by far bigger than mine. I looked at him the very first day he entered the lecture room in the 90s, and I said to myself, this guy with very ugly teeth and bigger than mine, can he be a lecturer? There were so many questions in my mind as I saw, the guy in front of us. He was smart, intelligent. He delivered his marketing and public relations stuff right from his head. I was so impressed, honestly. I should not forget this guy, and I want to mention him, Mr. Moses Sati. He really inspired me. From that very day, I told myself, if this gentleman with ugly teeth than mine can lecture marketing and public relations, surely I think I can do it. That was the very first day I regained, my confidence. And I'll tell you that 2 years down the line, I was in the lecture room and I was lecturing, and I started my lecturing right in 1996. I started teaching marketing and public relations 1996 in Harare. And from that time, I never looked back. I was right in front of students until 2020 as a full-time lecturer. Now, the most interesting part is that the gentleman helped me rediscover myself, who I was. We always have aspirations, inspirations. We desire the best, and I also started to desire the best. Now, some years later, which I should say around 2018, should I say, just recently, I said to my wife, I want you to tell me just one reason why you married me. And she said, I want to be very honest with you. One reason I married you, I loved your teeth. I was shocked. I said, do you mean my front teeth? And she said, that is one thing that I liked about you. She indicated to me that it was one most important part of my body that she admires most. You never know that very thing that you have that will change the world out there. And I said to her that I never thought that you love my teeth, because from childhood I lacked self-respect and I thought I was so ugly. And she said, that is one thing that I liked about you, your teeth. So I never knew that when I became a lecturer from 1996 until 2020, it was my teeth which was helping me doing wonders in front of the students. And I'm not so sure about you, the very thing that is helping you, And from there, I started to pick myself up that, no, I can do greater things. I can rediscover myself the better. If I grounded myself for years because of this, I think the journey ahead is going to be sweeter. And, years down the line as a lecturer until 2020, I told myself that, look, I think the journey ahead still, it's much bigger. I'm kind of in a swimming pool, but you have to lose sight of the shore for you to discover the oceans. And life is full of great opportunities. I loved my job as a lecturer. I will tell you, I loved my job. I loved my employer, one of the greatest employers in this country. Take note, I'm staying in the Republic of Botswana, and my former employer is one of the best employers I worked for, Imperial School of Business and Science, and I'll forever remain grateful to my employer. Even today, I do not say is my former employer. I always say my employer. And I still refer to my former boss as my boss, because I believe a soldier is always a soldier. You always remain a combat soldier. You can be called for duty anytime. Now, being one of the best varsity institutions in Botswana, I served them to the best of my knowledge, and they treated me very well, and I'll forever remain grateful. But one thing was certain, I felt like working from 8 o'clock to 5 p.m. every day, 8 to 5 p.m. every day, I think there is still more for me out there, and I wanted to find out what is it, that is out there. So I checked myself very well. I checked my conscience very well, and I said, look, I think I'm kind of in a cage. I really need to rediscover myself once again. And little did I know it that I was diving into poultry farming, and I was doing it small, and I found myself as a lover of poultry farming. Here I am today. I'm now into poultry farming. And when I started poultry farming, I will tell you that I started to get some flashes. Our mindset has got more than 80 billion brain neurons with more than 100 trillion synapses. I'm not a medical doctor. I read books written by medical doctors. And so I started to get some flashes as to things that I can do to change myself, the things that I loved most. And poultry farming helped me as I spent my time with my chickens, doing my poultry, feeding my chickens, at times sleeping in my poultry. I realized that I can do some other things which started to flash back, and to flash forward. And one of those things that I found out was that I really wanted to, to help other people discover themselves. Now, having retired from full-time varsity lecturing in 2020 on a very good note. When I say very good note, my former employer gave me a certificate award written, Leaving a Legacy. Now, it's up to you to interpret what that means, but it said, leaving a legacy. And all I remember is that my former employer shed a tear when I left to say, I'm leaving and I want to try something else. And I told him that I want to go into poultry farming, to which he supported me. Even as I'm speaking now, he's still supporting me, with good words, with encouragement, Now, I found out that I really want to help other people discover themselves, and I really want to help students, youngsters grow. Having worked as a lecturer and as head of faculty for many years, I had visited so many schools doing motivation speeches, encouraging students, graduating students. I had helped company employees, during the team building sessions and also, training sessions. And I wanted to impart this knowledge in a different way. And I also wanted, people to really discover themselves. So the next thing, I found myself starting to, to teach youngsters, groups about discovering themselves, that they can do greater things. You see, I learned a lot from the Chinese. They come to Africa, and when they come to Africa, while we are drilling boreholes and digging our wells, they collect samples, soil samples. They check the minerals which are there, and the next thing, they sign mining concessions and mining contracts. This is how the Chinese are doing it in Africa. They've done it in Zim, my country, and they are doing it elsewhere. And so I wanted to just help my former students in groups, in settings that, look, you can do greater things. And before I knew it, I yet to create another channel, which is MyBots MyZim, which is aimed at showcasing the beauty of Zimbabwe and Botswana. This was actually motivated by the fact that I have seen many of us, Africans, West Africans mostly, how they die in the Mediterranean Sea trying to reach the shores of Europe. Yet there is so much in Africa, there is so much in our African countries, there is so much on our soil. The only thing is to discover ourselves so that we can tap the resources that we have, and I've seen people die. And so this program that I recently started is to showcase the beauty, the untold story of Botswana, Zimbabwe. I'm not only covering the two countries, I'm going to cover a number of African countries as resources permit, And I'll tell you that I also found out that I'm also interested in, in sharing the gospel. And you will notice that I also had to start HomeAboveMinistries, and I discovered myself again that I really desire to share the good news of Christ. And you see some of my videos on YouTube, HomeAboveMinistries. These are some of the things that give me happiness. And from the proceeds that I get from tree and farms, and the monies that I get, it has also helped me to spend my time with the elderly, giving 1 or 2 as God provides. These are the things that I can now do freely with time, something that I could not afford to do while I was a full-time employee. Take note, it's good to be an employee. It's good going to work 8 to 5 p.m. All right, and you actually have a lot of time. Because one thing I realized that when I left full-time employment, I no longer sleep. I now spend much of my time working, and I hardly rest. And if you think that quitting your job as a full-time employee will make you free, it is not going to be like that. You will find that you are going to work very hard than before. And I'm now working very hard than before. But it has also helped, me get better in terms of financial resources than before. And, it's good. It's good. I'm not going to say quit your job and dive into farming. No, you have to prepare yourself, make your foundation, and make your decision. That was my path, and it has helped me, and I discovered myself much better. You need to live a life that you desire. You need to live a life that you want, that you aspire, and these are the things that I loved most. And I found out that I really would like to help other people discover themselves, discover their country, discover how good their country is, and that they can do greater things in their country. And also you can share the good news with other people. The things that give us satisfaction are not the things that money buys in most cases, but the things that God Almighty gives us for free. And poultry farming really, really helped me discover this. When I spend my time with my chickens, I discovered that the things that give me peace of heart and the things that give satisfaction are not the things that I bought with money, but the things that are free, the things that give us, the things that we are given for free by God Almighty. For example, the air we breathe is for free. We don't pay, but we don't value it, The trees around us, we don't pay, but it's of so much value. But the things that I buy, like buying my TV, buying my radio, buying my cell phone, at times it leads to depression if not properly checked and controlled. So that journey was a sweet journey for me, and I must say that it really helped me spend so much time and also have so much time with my family. I can have so much time with my children, and as you can see in that video, I actually move around with my daughter, and it gives me joy, it gives me satisfaction. When I go out to meet the elders, I go with my children, and it was a result of me spending time in my poultry. You get some flash ideas that come to you, and it's sweet, and it was sweet for me. I'm not so sure about you. You can still find your path, but the bottom line is you need to read a lot, rediscover yourself, do things that you love most, and spend time with great people who would help you rediscover yourself, who will push you frontiers of knowledge that will take you to will stretch you to the limit. Where you're wrong, they help you. And in my case, I had, of course, good friends. I had people who inspired me, and farming was my path, and I'm still there. Now, am I still doing lecturing? Yes, I'm still doing lecturing, part-time, online. And I now just sit in front of my computer and I teach MBA students online. It has given me so much satisfaction. Am I still doing corporate trainings? Yes, I'm still doing corporate trainings. I still go visit corporate organizations. I'm hired by companies for their team building, and I'm hired by companies for their corporate training, and I do so on part-time basis. Am I still doing some speaking engagements? Yes, I still do some speaking engagements on part-time basis. All public speaking events, I do go. I'm hired, as you can see. This is just a recent one where my former employer, called me to be, a director of ceremony. I still do that on part-time basis. I'm still talking to people. Right now, only that I'm now talking to people on a global scale through my channels, Tuyen Farms, MyBots MyZim, and the Home Above Ministries. I hope I find you well, and the main reason why I'm showing you this video is to help you. There are many people out there who possibly are failing to rediscover themselves, or who are failing to get a path, and that is the main reason why I'm sharing this clip with you. I hope it will help you, and I hope I find you well. Don't forget to subscribe to your channel, Tuyen Farms, and we also have other channels, MyBots MyZim, and another channel, Home Above Ministries. You can also hit those buttons and subscribe so that